Welcome back, everybody. Today we're looking at finding the circumference of a circle. Circumference is essentially the same thing as saying the perimeter, the difference being, of course, that this is a circle, but the idea is still the same. It's the distance around the outside edge of a circle. From elementary school, most of you probably remember the formula for finding a circumference of a circle, but if you don't, here it is. For finding the circumference of a circle, we use the formula c, which is circumference, is equal to pi times diameter. Or, if you prefer, I know some people like to say, instead of that, circumference is equal to pi times radius times 2. And they're both the same thing. The radius times 2 is the same distance as the diameter. So for simplicity's sake, we're just going to use circumference equals pi times diameter. But if there is ever a situation where you would prefer to use the other formula, then there's nothing wrong with that either. So let's go ahead and try to solve this. First off, in our picture here, we have a circle with a line across the middle, and that line represents the diameter. So if I were to tell you that this time our diameter is, let's say, 12 inches across, we could use that information to find the approximate circumference of this circle. The way we do it is we substitute it into our formula. So let's go ahead and try it. We have circumference equals pi. Now remember that pi, as we learned in elementary school, is approximately 3.14. It's not exactly, there is no exact value of pi. So we use an approximation of 3.14. And we're going to multiply this by our diameter, which is 12. And that's all we have to do. We just have to multiply that out. So let's go ahead and multiply that, and we're going to jump over here to the side so we don't make any mistakes. So we have 3.14, and we're going to multiply that by 12. So as we see here, 2 times 4 is going to give me 8. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And then I move over to my next value, which is my 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 3 is 3. I'm going to add all of this together. I end up with 8, 6, 7, and 3. And when we go back to look at the original problem, we see that we had 2 decimal places in the original problem, in the pi value of 3.14, which means in our final answer we also have to have 2 decimal places. So we end up with an answer of 37.68. So if I were to write that as an actual answer, I would say that the circumference is equal to 37.68. And that's how we find the circumference of a circle. So let me give you a couple of practice problems and we'll see how you do. So here we have our 2 separate practice problems. So go ahead and see if you can figure out the circumference of both of these circles. Okay, hopefully you have your answers ready to go. If not, pause the video and finish. For the circle on the left, let's start there. We have circumference is equal to pi, which we're going to use 3.14, times the diameter, which in this case is 7 centimeters. So I have 3.14 times 7. So let's go ahead and multiply that out. 3.14 times 7. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 1 plus 2 is 9. 7 times 3 is 21. So I have 21, and then I have 2 decimal places, 21.98. So the circumference for us for this particular problem is going to be 21.98, and remember that we are dealing with a length, so it's 21.98 centimeters. Alright, so for the problem on the right, this one is a little bit different. This time, if we read the problem carefully, which hopefully you all did, this says the radius of a circle is 10 inches, which means if we're going to use our formula of circumference is equal to pi times diameter, we need to be able to figure out what is the diameter based off of the radius. And remember that the diameter is the radius times 2. The radius is halfway across the circle. The diameter goes the entire distance. So 10 inches for the radius, which would mean if I want the diameter, it's double that. So it's actually 20 inches. So if I substitute this into my formula, I'm going to have circumference equals 3.14 times my diameter of 20 inches. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. So I have, where am I going to do this? We'll go down here. 3.14 times 20. 0 times everything is 0, so we're just going to put a 0 here and understand that our next number we're going to use as a placeholder. 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. I have 2 decimal places in my original problem, which means I have to have 2 decimal places in my answer. So my circumference for this circle is going to be 62.8, and we are dealing with inches this time, so it's 62.8 inches. There you have it. Find the circumference of a circle using the formula pi times diameter.